Hello everyone and welcome to another incredible game, perhaps the best one so far in terms of viewing pleasure from the Niksic tournament of 1983. Here Garry Kasparov faces none other than Lajos Portisch, Hungarian grandmaster, who many consider to be one of those strongest players never to become world champion. And we've seen how he plays. We've seen where he plays. He competed in all of the top events over the course of, let's say, like 30 years. He qualified for the interzonal tournaments 12 times. He entered the candidates 8 times, and he even reached the semifinal twice. Once he was eliminated by Spassky. Another time he defeated Spassky, and then in the semifinals he lost I think Robert Hibna, and just never reached that final to challenge for the title. But all in all, an incredible player, and I found his scores against other players, and I think you guys will actually be extremely impressed. Now, again, I know you guys say I always do this, but for those of you who are maybe first time hearing about Lajos Portisch, I want you to know how strong he was. So here are some of his scores against other players of different eras. So against Paul Keres, he has a positive result of 4-2. Against Viktor Korchnoi, 13-9. Against Vishwanathan Anand, 2 wins, 1 loss. Against Ulf Andersson, 9-7. Against Bronstein, 1 victory, 0 losses. Against Gligoric, 12-7. Bent Larsen, 21-13. Tigran Petrosian, 10-8. So all positive results. Samuel Rashevsky, 5-0. Ljubomir Ljubojevic, 10-12. Robert Hubna, 5 wins, 4 losses, and 25 draws. Vlastimil Hort, 9-4. Against Laszlo Szabo, 8-6. Against Polugaevsky, he had 4-3. Against Leonid Stein, 3-2. And against Enrique Mecking, 1 victory, 5 draws, and 0 losses. So those are some of the best players of the last 30-40 years, and he has a positive result against all of them. So incredible player, and he's one of those players where, that was sort of had this reputation of always losing to brilliancies. But the reason for that is, in order for you to actually defeat Lajos Portisch, you had to play brilliantly. So let's see if Kasparov is able to do that. This is round 4, so we've checked out game round 1 and 2. Against Jasa Serevan and Tigran Petrosian, so those were very nice 2 victories. In round 3, Kasparov played against Gyula Saks. Kasparov had the black pieces, and Gyula unleashed a beautiful attack. Kasparov was able to defend. He was worse for the entire game, but that's just a line that was played in those days. It's no longer played. Some sort of a Tal variation against the Scheveningen Sicilian, and it's very good for white because they've had some wrong ideas with black back then. But it was a very active opening, and many great victories were achieved by black as well. So that being said, let's see what happens in round 4. Kasparov has white, and he opens with pawn to d4. We have knight f6, we have pawn to c4, and pawn to e6. And now knight to f3, not allowing Lajos to go for the Nimzo Indian defense with knight to c3 and bishop to b4. Kasparov goes for the anti-Nimzo, knight to f3, and pawn to b6. So, of course, Lajos just wants to develop the light square bishop by fianchettoing it. Knight to c3, bishop to b7, and pawn to a3. We have pawn to d5, and now c captures on d5. Knight captures on d5 and pawn to e3. Even today, queen c2 and pawn to e3 are the top moves, and this is a line that's still played very much today. But maybe Portisch was not aware of this, but Kasparov was actually playing into a game that Lajos himself played against Lev Polugaevsky in the 1981 Moscow Championship, so 2 years prior to the event of Niksic 1983. At this point, probably Lajos suspected that, but he knew the positions very well, and he got a very nice game and a quick draw against Polugaevsky. So he thought, okay, nothing to worry about. We have knight captures on c3, b captures, and bishop to e7. Still following the game Portisch played with white against Polugaevsky. We have bishop to b5 with check, pawn to c6, and bishop back to d3. Pawn to c5 and castles kingside. Again, we are still in that game. We have knight to c6, bishop to b2, and rook to c8. We have queen to e2. And castles kingside, followed by rook 8 to d1, Kasparov making the exact same moves Lajos made against Polugaevsky. We have queen to c7, and here in the game that I've mentioned several times already, Lajos played pawn to e4 against Polugaevsky. And after pawn to e4, there was a knight a5, and then pawn to h3, and here they agreed to a draw. It's a weird position to agree to a draw in, especially with white. I guess I haven't checked the tournament. Probably both of them were satisfied with the draw, and I mean, giving a draw here with white doesn't really look like something that, you know, whoever has the white pieces would do. But I guess, you know, it fit the tournament standings. But here, after queen to c7, Kasparov does not repeat pawn to e4. Rather, he goes for pawn to c4. And it is now, as of move 15, that we have a completely new game. Later on, the position will be repeated in 1997 by Zdenko Kozul with the white pieces against Leonid Goffstein. But Zdenko will not be able to repeat Kasparov's brilliancy from 1983, as Leonid showed that he knows about that game, and okay, he's not going to fall for it. And the question is what to do here on Kasparov's pawn to c4. Well, you should continue with knight to a5, same as in the game that we've seen, as Polugaevsky did. But no. Here, after Kasparov's pawn to c4, Lajos played c captures on d4, and he is already either lost or, you know, almost impossible to hold, because Kasparov plays e captures on d4, and now knight to a5 seems like a reasonable move because you are putting pressure on that c4 pawn, but now d5, and the problems are evident. Now, if Lajos were to go knight captures on c4, Kasparov would just go queen e4, threaten checkmate, and after g6, bishop captures on c4, queen captures, and queen e5, threatening another checkmate. The bishop pair is just much too powerful, and here to defend this, you would have to play f6, you give up the e6 pawn with check, and that's pretty much it. Then you have the passed d pawn already supported by the rook. The queen bishop attack will be incredible. The knight is coming to g5. There is zero counterplay here for black. So after pawn to d5, Lajos said, all right, obviously we cannot do that. Let's go e captures on d5. Kasparov plays c captures on d5. Now he will have a passed pawn on the d file. And the question is, can you allow it to remain there? Of course you cannot. He played bishop captures on d5, and now Kasparov just plays bishop captures on h7. Okay, nothing spectacular, trading bishops. Or so you'd think. King captures on h7 and rook captures on d5, followed by king to g8. This is the only move that it does not lose terribly on the spot. So king g8 is very, very solid. But now Kasparov played a move where I believe Lajos figured out that there's no coming back from this. So what do you think Kasparov played here? Have at it while I give you a couple of seconds. The move he played was bishop captures on g7. And now you realize what is going on. You have no more defenders in front of your king, and there's a rook, knight, and queen in front of your king. So can you survive it? It's hard to say. Of course, without capturing the bishop, you lose on the spot. I will, just for your viewing pleasure, show, probably some of you found rook h5 as well, which is also winning. I'm going to show it because it's also a beautiful win. Point is that after queen to d6, you will go knight e5. You have to prepare to you have to get your queen into the game, and now you can go knight c4. That's well protected by the queen and by the knight. And if you try knight to c6, because if you don't bring that piece into the game, you're just not up a piece. Queen e4, threatening mate, and now after g6, you're just gonna play knight captures on g6, and after f captures, you're gonna go queen to c4 with check, and that's it. There is no defense here. If you go rook f7, it's a rook h8 checkmate, and other moves also don't really do all that well. So instead, after king to g8, Kasparov did not go for rook to h5. He went for the more human bishop captures on g7, and there's no coming back from this. King captures on g7, and now knight to e5. But you still have to play a perfect game with white. Interestingly, Lajos, on every move, he plays the top defensive move recommended by the engine. He plays rook f to d8. Of course, he wants to eliminate as many Kasparov's attackers as possible while creating some safety for his king. Kasparov goes queen g4 check, king to f8, and now queen to f5, threatening checkmate on f7, so not just hanging a rook here. pawn to f6, and now you could go knight g6 check, but knight to d7 check is even better, because you cannot you can't ignore the knight. If you go king to e8, then just queen g6 is checkmate, or queen h5 is checkmate. There's no doing that. If you try king to f7, it's a little bit better, but you still get checkmated. Queen to h7 check, king e6, rook to e1 check, a nice rook sacrifice, and now just a queen e4 check, king to d6, and of course you could either checkmate with rook d1 or queen to e6. Both will be checkmate. So that's not an option. You have to give a little bit of material back, which you are very happy to do. I mean, every piece of Kasparov's you eliminate, he has less pieces to checkmate you with. So rook captures on d7, rook captures on d7, and queen to c5. Hoping to trade queens, Kasparov says nope, queen to h7. And now rook to c7, just trying to trade. Queen to h8 with check, king to f7, hoping for a draw with repetition. But no, Kasparov just goes rook to d3. The absolute best move, now preparing to double up on the d file. So Lajos has to take this opportunity to get the knight into the game. Knight to c4, and now rook f to d1. Beautifully doubling up. Knight to e5, chasing away the rook, and queen to h7 with check. And the problem is you cannot go up the board. If you go up the board, then it's the matter of a simple rook d8 check, and you get checkmated with the queen and rook covering the 7th and 8th rank. And if you go king to e6, as was played in the game, then queen g8 check, king to f5, and now how do you continue the attack? Of course, by continuing the attack. Pawn to g4. And it seems like you could capture that pawn. But if you play knight captures on g4, then the rook comes to f3. And then after king f5, you will lose the knight on g4. And now you get checkmated, anyway, queen f5 will be checkmate. So whatever black plays is not enough. So after g4 check, we have king to f4. Now rook to d4 check, king to f3, and queen to b3 with check. And he was in this position on move 35 that Lajos Portisch resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. So what do you think? Brilliancy? I would say so. And also, like I said, another reason why they always say Lajos loses the brilliancy is because you have to play brilliantly in order to take him down. He defeated so many top players over different eras that, I mean, he was an amazing player. And Kasparov definitely created a brilliancy here. Of course, he knew about the game that Lajos played against Lev Polugaevsky. How much was it home preparation? How much was, Kasparov's doing? Again, I have no idea, but, all in all, a beautiful, beautiful accomplishment. And here you resign because what do? If you move like king e2, then rook will just checkmate the king. If you go for, let's say you block with the queen, then queen d5 check. Again, nowhere for the king to go. You have to go to e2, and then queen e4 check, queen e3, and you just capture with checkmate. So nothing much to be done here. So beautiful start to the tournament for Kasparov. A victory against Yasser Serevan and Tigran-Petrosian in the first 2 rounds, then a draw against Gyula Saks, where he was sort of the one escaping, but never really in any spectacular danger. And then, a beautiful victory with white against, again, we could say one of the strongest players never to become a world champion in round 4. What will happen in round 5? Well, we will find out in the next video about the Niksic tournament. Hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Eric Vasquez, Tomas Pasternak, Alan Schemberno, Seshadri Subramanian, and Nick Lin for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.